So here is an update on the introducing horses to new pastures and to new pairs. After I brought Gino and Harry down into this pasture, and Dakota and Katniss are doing really well in that one together, I then went ahead and put Harry, handsome Harry, our little Mustang ambassador, the one who has never learned an appropriate flight response, in with Dreamcatcher, who was my first Mustang I ever rescued and is a very, very strong, dominant alpha mare. I put them in together, and then I went ahead and put Uncle Gino in with Uncle Gino's up there in the shelter, in with Perone, who he fell in love with Perone minutes after Perone hit the ground when he was born, and was with Perone for his first year and a half, so they were very bonded. I put the four of these. Hi, Katniss. I mixed the four of them up, and I ain't gonna lie, it got a bit ragged when I brought these two in together. Well, first of all, Perone decided he was going to try and school Uncle Harry and took to trying to back in and kick him. Well, Gino will have no part of that. Gino is not a mean horse, but he's certainly going to stand his ground. So that got sorted out pretty quick. This, on the other hand, was a little bit of a shit show, pardon my French, for a while, and Harry decided he was going to go right after her and school her, and she said, "Oh, absolutely not, that's not how we do things in my pasture," and she instead schooled him. Nobody got hurt. He's got one little abrasion on the inside of one of his hocks. She's got nothing. The next thing I did was go ahead and get hay, and I put 3 piles of hay out in each pasture because hay is sedating and calming, and that is one of the things that we will always do when introducing new horses to one another, is we will put out hay to give them something to do. Now, just a little information. We're going to talk about the horse's brain and their neural pathways and the chemical releases they get. When their heads are below their withers, they are in the parasympathetic nervous system. When they are in the parasympathetic nervous system, they are releasing endorphins. And so it's no mistake that God made prey animals eat off the ground, because after they have an experience that puts them in fight or flight, which their head goes, for horses, their head goes above their withers into what we call the sympathetic nervous system, and that's where they're releasing adrenaline. That's when the fight or flight kicks in, that reptilian part of the brain. And once they have successfully escaped the threat, they will stop and shake. You'll see deer and gazelle and all kinds of prey animals do this. Horses do it to some degree. They more stop, kind of lick and chew and start swallowing. And the reason they do that is because when they're in the sympathetic nervous system, blood and oxygen slows down to all of their body parts except for their heart, lungs, and muscles, which is what they need in order to survive. So that means their salivary glands stop working. But once they have survived the threat, I'm just keeping an eye on Harry. He's trying to meander his way over to the water trough. Once they've survived the threat, they will lower their head below their withers back into parasympathetic nervous system. They'll start releasing endorphins, and to some degree they'll eventually they'll start releasing dopamine, but they start releasing adrenaline. Releasing endorphins. And you'll see them shake And that's kind of shaking off the residual adrenaline that's still in their body, but you'll also see them start licking and chewing, and that's because their salivary glands have started working again. So there's your little crash course on horses' parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system and the chemicals in which they release and why they release them. I go so much more into that in my online course of Pathways to True Unity. We have a whole module that teaches about that. It's fascinating. I am furthering my education right now in the neuroscience and neural pathways of both the horse and human, and my goal is to help deepen my understanding so that I can be a better horsewoman and a better teacher and a better horse trainer by understanding that. So anyway, that is just a little crash course, a little tidbit of information in case you didn't know. You know how I love to post my knowledge is power, so there you go. There's your tidbit of knowledge is power. And Harry is doing pretty good. I think he's trying to meander his way down here to the water trough. And this is the first time that I have actually seen Harry be respectful to other horses. So God bless my amazing Dreamcatcher. I love this mare to pieces. She is my superstar when it comes to the equine experiential education work I do. She and I do my Goddess Warrior workshop, and she's amazing at working with people, helping them to discover that inner Goddess Warrior within. And I knew that she had it in her to teach this young punk some manners, and so far so good. So there you go, guys. This is part 2 to introducing the horses to new enclosures and to new herds. Take care.